Thanks, Mike, for joining me. I just wanted to take a minute and just chat about just your life in Columbus, Nebraska, with Connection Christian Church and everything that you guys have been doing up there. Just to hear a little bit of your story, share that with some of our community, and just get going from there. So, thanks for being on with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be able to share this story.
Good, man. Well, tell us, take us back. When did you launch, and what did the process kind of look like as you were just getting going, feeling that initial call to plant a church? What was that story like?
I think everybody's kind of got their own story, and that's one of the fun things about sharing it and hearing the guys' perspectives. Mine started probably a couple of years before the church plant actually started here in Columbus. I just had a reoccurring dream of starting a church. We began to look into that, and nothing was really happening. So we just felt like, okay, well, I don't know what it is, but let's just keep doing ministry the way we've been doing ministry. And we got involved with the church planting network in Minnesota and helped to get a church started in the Duluth area. And that was fun and exciting. But then a couple of years later, we were actually in the Fort Worth area. And one of my friends from college sent me a message and said, "Hey, we're looking at starting a church in Columbus, Nebraska, and we've been praying over some potential planters. You're the first guy on the list, and would you be interested?" So, really, for us internally, we went from in the course of a week to, we're going to stay in this ministry that we've been in. We're going to move to a larger home for our family, and now it's like I think God wants us in Columbus, Nebraska, and so that process actually took way longer than that because we had to go through assessment, and there was just an assessment process through Nexus. So we had to wait till October. This was June, and kind of feel like we're in limbo. The church is in limbo because we've let them know that, hey, we might be out, but we might be in, and we really have no idea what that looks like. And so really just trying to transition the church. But we did go through assessment and moved to the community in the winter of 2014, and right in between semesters for our kids, and hit the ground running. It was really about 2 weeks into it. We started doing some in-home Bible studies with some people that we had been referred to by some other area churches that said, "Hey, these families have moved to the community. You might follow up with them." And so, by the time we went through a lot of that list, we ended up with 7 individuals doing a Bible study, about 20 of us once you factored in all the kids. But really, I mean, it was go, 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 except for really maybe that first couple of weeks, when you hit the ground and you go, okay, this is where God wants us to be. What do we do? Because, there's no sermon to prepare. There's no, Bible study to lead. There really wasn't much in the neighborhood. I'm naturally a more introverted person. So just going out and starting up conversations is not something that is just out there, but missionally, like it has to be. So just going through that whole process. And then we found ourselves doing more of a staggered launch. Normally there's the soft launch and the hard launch. Well, we ended up doing the Bible study, and then we went to a local housing authority, which is kind of like a small fellowship hall, and we started doing services there on a Sunday night in May, and then Sunday morning in June, and then the soft launch in July, and then in August we hit it. And so we've been going over 6 years now. My family and I have been here for about 7 years, and man, it's been a roller coaster.
So August 2014, is that what you said? Basically, it was your grand opening.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. That's good stuff. So what was that transition like, that journey like for your family? Did you guys come with anybody, or was everybody it was just your family that moved to Columbus?
It was just my family. So my wife and I, and 3 kids, the oldest of which was in 5th grade, just had transitioned to middle school. And then when we moved back here, he had to go back to elementary school because of a different school structure. So that was kind of awkward. That was probably one of our major concerns, but also something that we really leaned in on, is that he doesn't do change well. He's on the autism spectrum, but extremely high functioning. And we wanted him to see God's faith at work, and to be able to put some wheels to that. And it did amazing things. Matter of fact, that's probably one of my biggest learning experiences through this whole thing. We were about 3 weeks into our transition here. Our house, we hadn't closed on that yet. We're still waiting on paperwork, and I'm getting visibly frustrated with the bank who we've sent the information to several times over. And from the back seat, he just says, hey, God's taking care of everything else, and take care of this too. And it's just like, wow, that's where we're at. But for the family, my wife works with the kids ministry, and she did then, and she still does. And the kids have plugged in. My youngest, Hannah, she was right there with us when we did a lot of the setup. And she'd get up with me early in the morning, hook onto the trailer and haul it in and set up and tear down. And she was just all over that. She still works in the kids ministry. Both the boys help out with audio visual stuff in the church as well. So it's really been a family event.
Good, man. Well, what's life kind of been like over the last 6 years, just in the nature of your church and your church family, whether as far as like staff and hirings, or what is maybe just discipleship and just growth, and just give us a picture of what Connection has kind of looked like over the years and kind of grown towards.
For sure. Like I said, it's been a roller coaster, and I mean that really in every sense of the word. We started meeting in an elementary school. That's where we did our soft and hard launch at. And I knew that I didn't want to start this thing by myself. I wanted somebody to come in and to be able to lead the area of worship. Was able to come across Josh Muehlbauer. He's a guy that went to the same college I did, Nebraska Christian College, went to the same church camp that I did, but we never met. We had, I don't know, like 40, 50, 60 friends in common, but we just never met. We were that far enough apart at the school system at Nebraska that it just didn't happen. But it's been a good fit, and Josh has been here with us really since before our hard and soft launch phases of ministry. So even before we could afford one staff, we had two, and it's been crazy, and it's been awesome in that, and really felt like, when I say a roller coaster, like that first couple of years, it's just like we kept chugging up the hill, and you just feel like you've got the energy, you're planning for something, and you're going to get there, and you're going to get there, and you're going to get there, and you hit that hard launch, and it's like, yes, we finally, we launched the church. And as much as they say in Art of the Start or in any of the Nexus events, like, don't take your foot off the gas, don't relax, it's like we're there. But it didn't take too long to just go, okay, now we need to snap out of this and really get back to work, because now people are coming. Now we've got to do something with this. And so we did that, and we grew, and obviously ebbs and flows, but mostly it was just building the DNA, building the structure of the church, investing in people and seeing that happen. Probably in 2017, I think it was, we experienced kind of our first exodus, which was really a difficult time. Some of our people that helped us get started were no longer a part of the church. Some had moved to different churches, some had moved to different communities, and we lost probably 20 people, just in one summer. And so it was just kind of a heart check, and it was a really a challenging thing to do. And obviously, you find a way to strengthen the base again, so that you can prepare for the next level of ministry. And we did that, and we continued to press on. We had at this point been inside of a strip mall location, so we were 24/7. We could set up, we could have activities, and that was a great blessing to our team. But then we had a huge flood in Nebraska this last year, and we responded to that, did a huge recovery effort, supplied some different things to families who were struggling. And so as great as that was, we were outgrowing our space. We were hitting a high number in attendance, and we just needed someplace else to go. And we couldn't go month to month where we were at. The facility we thought we would move into, it just wasn't ready yet. The process was taking way long. And then as we were going through this transition, we ended up going back to being portable inside of an Eagles club where we currently meet now, and just thought this was going to be temporary. And, God's had our back, because if we would have invested those funds into another facility, we probably would have starved the ministry. just because we would have been so tied up financially. But we've been able to stockpile some resources and things like that. So, I mean, that's the journey of kind of what that's looked like. Discipleship has always been about our four core values: connect, grow, love, and serve. So connect people through the large group settings, get them to grow through small group ministry. So small groups has been a huge thing for us. They're sermon based. So whatever we talk about on Sunday, we kick over through the week. And love is this catalyst, that we're trying to get everybody to engage with and understand that God loves them unconditionally, and allow that to motivate them to serve other people in the church and in the community. And now what we're trying to do is really dig down a little bit deeper, and the small groups are kind of finally starting to go, it seems like. And I don't know if everybody's experiences this, and I'm sure it's not. Like, we've just struggled in the area of small groups. And I think that our biggest challenge is people are busy. And so when you're dealing with busyness and you're dealing with young families, it becomes a hard thing for them to want to commit to.
Yeah.
And even when they do commit to it, we live in a very blue collar community, and work schedules are all over the place. And so they may not be able to make it, but every other week. And so just trying to factor that in. But now going back to discipleship and really looking at more small group D groups, which would be more like a 2, 3, 4 people, and really trying to get people to be more intentional on that. So we're just kind of at the beginning phases of that, but that's something that is really at our heart right now when it comes back to the idea, the core of discipleship that you were asking about.
Yeah, good, man. No, that's awesome. It's yeah, it's definitely a journey figuring out what's working, what's not working, how do we adapt, and what changes and what stays the same. Can you point to maybe just share a story of something that God has done, that we're this is a God story and he alone gets the credit of maybe it's somebody's life that's just been radically transformed, somebody's marriage, somebody's family, um, something in that regard that you've just seen just through your faithfulness and your ministry of connection, that God has just done something amazing.
We have definitely seen our share of those, and I think that we could go across the board. I mean, I could talk about when it came to fundraising, and we needed a trailer, and we didn't have that in our budget to buy, and so within the same week, I get a call back from this guy that said, "Hey, my trailer that you couldn't afford before has just gotten some hail damage. It was all cosmetic, and now you can get it for what you were wanting to spend." In that very same week, we get a check in the mail from a guy that says, "Hey, my harvest came in, and here is the exact dollar amount that trailer is going to cost you."
Wow.
That was cool, right? But I think the greatest God stories are always in the lives of people, and being able to see somebody who hasn't really stepped foot in the church other than maybe a funeral or a wedding, and they're thinking, just this church thing is not for me. This is not something that I'd be interested in. But to see something happen in their life or in the lives of a friend that draws them in, and I can think of several of those people, but one family in particular. The whole thing started off. Their background, their church was without a pastor, and they were really wanting something for their kids, and it wasn't there. We met in the school, so we gave full-size candy bars and cans of pop. And so it's like, well, maybe we'll go check this out. And then she comes, she's leading in her classroom, and then one of her para-educators who's in the classroom with her is just going through a lot of stuff at that point in time. And it's really like, you know what, this church thing, I don't think so. But eventually, like, she comes. And I remember having the conversation with her about, hey, I sent you a friend request on Facebook, would love to connect with you. And she's like, I've got some pretty sketchy friends out there, some of the stuff that's on there. And I'm like, that's cool. It's whatever. And eventually, she engages kind of slowly. And now she's active within our kids ministry. She's active with like our Halloween outreach we just did. She led the charge on that. She is the one lady that I'm aware of, one person that I'm aware of that has a connection tattoo on her body. So it's pretty intense, right? So it's pretty cool.
That's hilarious. Well, good, man. Well, obviously this year's been kind of crazy and continued with your ups and downs. You said the flood in Columbus was this year, correct?
It was last year,
Oh,
yeah.
2019, last year.
Yep. So we got hit back to back springs. Flood last year, COVID this year. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. With the way things have kind of gone just in church in general, and I've asked this question to a lot of our guys, but what do you think the most profound way that your ministry or your thought process will change based on what the quarantine kind of did to you and your life and your ministry? What do you think the most profound way that your ministry will change going forward?
That's a tough question. I mean, I know it's changed a lot now, and maybe it's just continuing to go back to one of the Nexus core values is, being nimble, being able to adjust on the fly. And we definitely have. And even now, it's like most places, and Nebraska is definitely a hot spot right now. Like COVID is making a resurgence. And so even when you think that you're out of the woods and things are finally starting to click and feel like normal before, and not that it's the same normal, it's completely different. But now it's like, okay, now we're starting to retract a little bit. Now we're starting to see where we'd only had one family wear a mask. Now we're seeing many people, including myself, wear a mask on Sunday. And our kids ministry, youth ministry, it's mandatory. So going through this, it impacts the finances, it impacts most any of the gatherings. But it's really kind of brought us back to thinking strategically and thinking smaller. Uh, One example very early on in COVID was Easter. Like, what are we going to do for Easter? In the past, we've done these huge Easter egg hunts. They just grew and grew and grew and got bigger and bigger until, a year ago, we saw about 1,600 people come into this community egg hunt. We gave away bicycles and Nerf guns. I mean, it was a big deal. And then we thought, well, let's go smaller, because even though we're reaching all of these people, we're not really seeing that carry over into a Sunday morning attendance or an opportunity for discipleship. So we wanted to minister specifically to families with children that had special needs. And so we began to strategize what this would look like. And then COVID hit, and it's like, well, we can't do that either. So we were able to adjust and take these gift bags and packages of eggs and take them to the doorsteps of families' homes and say, here's your Easter egg hunt. And so these families whose lives have been rocked by many other things were so appreciative that we were able to step in and reach them where they were. And we've had to do that numerous times, but I think just being strategic, being able to think smaller, and being able to adapt. I mean, those are huge things.
Yeah, good, man. Well, I mean, moving forward, kind of coming to the end of this year and kind of turning the corner 2021, what's the thing that you're most excited about right now in the life of Connection? I mean, coming through all these crazy seasons, obviously this year's has been rough and continues to be rough. I mean, obviously you're talking about, Columbus kind of having a resurgence of the COVID-19 and whatnot, but what's as life sits right now, what are you most excited about looking forward for Connection?
I appreciate you asking that, because when I first hear that, my thought goes, man, I don't know. And it's because I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed by facilities and overwhelmed by finances and overwhelmed by COVID. And we've got just all of these challenges. And then we have all of the regular challenges that exist in ministry too. It's people who are, far from God and who are struggling with life, or who are ebbing and flowing in their own faith journey. And it's sometimes hard to think around the corner. And I think that probably most people, and I would definitely say myself, like, you just kind of think, okay, once we get through this season of COVID, then we can kind of open things up and we can figure out where it's at. And not knowing where that's at in general. I mean, sure, we've got some vaccines that are looking promising, but who knows, what that's going to look like. And so as I've thought about it, really, the thing that excites me most is multiplication. And multiplication is really disciples making disciples.
Yeah.
Through COVID, we've had a team of guys. We really started back in April. We had 5 guys who started going through the Gospel of Mark, just doing video devotionals that we uploaded to Facebook and YouTube. And through that, a 9-week series, we ended up having a group of 5 ladies go through Ruth, and then we hit 1st, 2nd, 3rd John and Jude, and now we're doing Genesis and Exodus. And it's really cool. Something that never would have happened, had not we been forced to think differently through COVID. And so, I don't know, we probably had 20 plus individuals who have dove deeper into the word so that they could teach it to other people on video. And now that's gotten out to all their friends and their family. But then all of those other people are gathering in. And so that's just like the tip of the iceberg. But I think just in general, seeing more of our people sharing the gospel with more of their people, seeing ministry happen more organically and less that has to do with Josh or myself. Like they're just taking the ball and running. We've done a summer teaching team where we've had 4 or 5 guys teaching a message. That's crazy, right? To come into church and you're just unleashing guys to go preach, and you're sharing with them, discipling them along the way. And so making disciples who make disciples.
That's awesome, dude. Very cool. Well, what is when you look back just kind of on your life over the last 6-7 years, that whole process of starting, and I mean, you're talking about having a dream of starting a church and moving all through the ups and downs, the chaos of just what church planting is, the high highs and the really low lows. How have you grown personally, or what's the one thing that you can point to in your faith journey, in your spiritual life, where it's just like God has done this great work in me? Like what are some of those things that you just feel like you've exponentially grown over the last few years by stepping out in faith and planting connection?
There's so many different things, but one of probably the biggest things with Nexus is always this think next mindset. What's coming next? What are you going to do next? What are you going to invite them to next? And just having more of that mindset. Prior to doing the whole church plan, it was just about, I'll deal with what is. I'm kind of got my eye around the corner, but now I'm thinking further down the road and really trying to plan for what's 5 years down the road, what's 1 year down the road, what's 6 months down the road, and what's happening next week. And sometimes it's just hard to manage all of that stuff and to think in those different capacities. But that's definitely been internally something that's changed for me. But just seeing the, faith grow and grow, and that's been ministry, not just church planting, but every step of the ministry. When I was doing a weekend youth ministry, doing the full-time youth ministry, started to do preaching and thought, man, how am I going to come up with a message every week? And what's this going to look like? And, into church planting where it's like, wow, going out and meeting people and learning their faith stories and being a part of that journey and seeing life change. I mean, you just get to see God at work, and some of those things we talked about, like with a trailer or whatever, it's just amazing when God shows up. And then it's also frustrating when you're like, God, why aren't you doing something, in this situation too? But it just continues to stretch you more and more. And that's part of the journey.
Very cool, man. Well, does your wife still like you?
My wife does still like me most of the time. When she doesn't, it has nothing to do with church planting. It's all because I'm annoying or selfish or whatever, fill in the blank, right?
Oh, that's good. Well, I've appreciated you, man. I've really enjoyed getting to know you guys over the last few years, and especially I know you have a great team up there with Josh and Tim and some of those other guys, and obviously your wife with children's ministry and things. Just a solid crew up there in Columbus, and I really appreciate you guys. My last question for you would be this: is what has the role of Nexus been for you personally in this journey?
Oh man, it's huge from day one. The church plant that I was a part of in Minnesota on the management team, I really learned a lot of what not to do's. and that wasn't what I wanted to gain from that experience. But I just have really seen the absolute opposite from Nexus. From the assessment process, which was one of the most challenging things I think in ministry that I've gone through, to just have your life and your ministry picked apart the way that it was. But it's such a positive thing, to go through that and to experience the growth that comes after it, to, the art of the start. And I think probably one of the best things for me really has been the mentoring that comes through it, the coaching calls that, we started really before I even moved to Columbus. And how many people wouldn't benefit from somebody who's been there, done that, giving them a call weekly or monthly, just to say, hey, what have you been doing? What's working? What's not working? Have you considered this? Try this. And just to have that ongoing partnership in ministry, but just that extra motivating factor to keep pressing on, to keep doing, to keep growing, to keep thinking. And then all the partnerships, of course, that exist. You talk about the crew from Columbus. Like, we love to bring a crew down to the Think Next gatherings, and for me, it's really about gathering with the other planters and getting to hear their perspective and joining together on this journey. But to have my team be able to see that is kind of cool too. And Nexus provides that ongoing coaching, but they also have spilled over into our team.
Yeah, that's good, man. Well, again, man, I thank you so much for your time. Thanks for chatting with me for a little while. And I continue to pray for connection, for a blessing over your church and your leadership. And as you continue to push forward on your vision of multiplying and truly discipling. And that's super exciting that you have so many guys that are stepping up and preaching and on all those different things and leading in different capacities. Pray that continues to grow for you guys. But thanks so much, Mike, for just taking some time.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
We'll talk to you later, bro.
You bet. Take care.